Most people think that finding a hidden spy camera is quick and easy today. The truth of the matter, though, is that cheap bug detectors fail to find real bugs almost every single time. Today, we're going to look at what it really takes to do a professional bug sweep. This process is known in the investigative world as TSCM. That stands for Technical Surveillance Countermeasures. It means using highly specialized gear and equipment to locate hidden electronic surveillance devices. These hidden electronic surveillance devices include hidden cameras, voice recorders, or other eavesdropping equipment. TSCM companies handle these sweeps for government clients, big corporations, and even domestic matters like divorce, child custody, and even fraud cases. The biggest issue we face as TSCM technicians today is the cost of spy gear. Spy gear today is cheap, and it is very easy to get. Anyone can jump online and buy a high-def hidden wireless camera for under 20 bucks. Some of these cameras are as small as a quarter or even smaller and have features like night vision, motion activation, and advanced battery-saving technology. Then there are the spy cameras that are hidden inside normal everyday objects like clocks, stuffed animals, USB chargers, smoke detectors, and even plants. You can even buy a fully functional light bulb today with a built-in 360-degree pan and tilt camera for about 50 bucks. Now the problem we often see is that because this gear is so cheap, people assume finding it is just as cheap. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. How do you think a TSCM professional actually tracks down a device that is designed to stay completely hidden? We will answer that question in just a few minutes, but first we need to look at the tools people try to use. If you search online for a bug detector, you will find hundreds, if not thousands, of cheap devices. And the websites make big promises and claims. Their tools use active laser scanning to alert you to hidden cameras. They say their products are flying off the shelves because they detect everything. But the plain and simple truth is that you get exactly what you pay for, folks. And here is an even bigger secret. Those cheap tools are not actually bug detectors at all. They are just basically radio frequency detectors, or what we often refer to as RF detectors. There is no such thing as a single cheap or expensive device, for that matter, that does it all. An RF detector can only search for live radio frequencies, and even then, their capability is extremely limited. A cheap unit might claim it scans all the way up to 6 gigahertz, but what they don't tell you is the frequency scan spread. The spread means how far apart each scanned frequency is as the device searches for a signal. Think about the math between 20 kilohertz and 100 kilohertz. That's a gap of 80 kilohertz. Cheap units do not scan every single hertz or even every kilohertz. Instead, they might jump by an entire megahertz between each scan. There are, in simple math, 6 million kilohertz inside a 6 gigahertz range. If a bug is transmitting data on a specific frequency that falls in between those big jumps, those cheap detectors will skip right over it. A hidden camera sitting at a frequency of 1.4753 gigahertz will never be detected by a cheap online tool. And to make things worse, we live in a world bombarded by thousands of radio signals every single second. Signals from radio stations, cell phone towers, and television networks are all around us right now. A professional spectrum analyzer shows a massive wall of signal spikes constantly bouncing through the air. Those everyday radio frequencies bounce off metal objects like curtain rods, fan motors, refrigerator motors, and heater vents. We are constantly getting calls from clients who bought one of those cheap detectors online, and they claim that they found a bug in their wall. When we show up with the real TSCM equipment, we find out there is no bug. They were just getting what we call reflective signals from some copper wiring or other metal object in the wall's construction. So if the cheap tools don't work, how does a professional TSCM team actually do the work? We will dive into the exact high-tech gear we use next, but think about how much training it takes to know the difference between a real threat and a false alarm. To do a real sweep correctly, you must have the right tools and hundreds of hours of professional training and experience. Real TSCM professional equipment costs tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, if you're thinking about getting into the TSCM business, don't be dismayed about the costs. In a moment, I will tell you how I got started in the TSCM business for a fraction of that and how you can too. One of the primary tools we use is what we call a near-field detection receiver. This device uses multiple specialized antennas to identify different frequencies. Because it is a near-field detector, it only looks for signals that are very close to the unit. This prevents the tool from picking up outside radio towers and drastically cuts down on false positives. It tells the technician the exact type of signal, where it is located, and how powerful it is. But what happens if the hidden bug is not transmitting a wireless signal at all? This is where other critical pieces of gear come into play. To help us find bugs like that, we use things like infrared cameras, nonlinear junction detectors, inspection cameras, and inspection mirrors. Take, for instance, a nonlinear junction detector. These bug detectors operate on a completely different level. They look specifically for the internal components inside electronics like transistors, resistors, and capacitors, things with a nonlinear junction in them. It allows a TSCM professional to find electronic devices hidden inside walls, furniture, toys, handbags, and other things, regardless of whether they are transmitting a signal, whether they are powered on, or whether they even function. Then there are hidden surveillance devices that we call drop devices. A drop device is a small voice recorder or camera that an individual hides in a room to collect data, but it never, ever transmits a signal. The person leaves the device there to record onto an internal memory card. Then they come back days later or even weeks later and retrieve the device or the data. Since a drop device doesn't transmit any radio waves, any RF detector is completely useless against it. That is where a complete physical inspection comes into play. Using things like infrared cameras, which can detect heat signatures of electronic devices, inspection cameras, and mirrors to look into hard-to-see places, and the most valuable tools we have, our eyes and our hands. TSCM professionals will also use advanced spectrum analyzers to watch the entire spectrum over a long period of time. Using a spectrum analyzer helps us catch what we refer to as burst transmissions. A burst transmission comes from bugs that collect information, be it audio or video, but only transmitted on a set schedule like once an hour or 3 o'clock in the morning. Essentially, burst devices stay completely silent for hours. Then they turn on for just a few seconds at the scheduled time and they burst all of that data out. So you want to get into the exciting world of TSCM, but you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest. How do you do it? Well, let me tell you about how I got into the TSCM business. When I started, I didn't have a ton of money to invest, but I knew it could be a very lucrative, not to mention exciting new industry to move into as a PI. So I bought a few pieces of what I refer to as more basic professional TSCM equipment. They still did what those really expensive pieces of equipment did, but without all of the bells and whistles. Now, those things that I bought nearly 2 decades ago are no longer available. They essentially are outdated. And if they were available today, well, they wouldn't be very effective. My first professional bug detector went all the way up to 3 gigahertz. Well, today that is but a drop in the bucket, if you will, considering all the frequencies that a bug can transmit on. Now, if you want to get into the TSCM business today, you need something that covers a much higher frequency range, and that is why I recommend the Bug Hunter Pro. And if you want to learn more about the Bug Hunter Pro and how it can help you start your TSCM business, then check out this video.